Hello everyone and welcome back to another VASAviation video. Today we're going to be talking about the fuel control switches. After reading through the preliminary report for Air India 171 accident only a month ago, I was reading the report a couple days ago, and while I was reading some of the most relevant part of it, I was saying to myself like, hey, that's something that cannot happen in my aircraft. So I figured it would be quite interesting to see the differences between the Boeing fuel control switches and the fuel control switches that we have in the Cessna Citation, that is the aircraft that I currently fly. The Cessna Citation, for those that don't know, is like a medium-sized corporate jet. So let's talk about it. Also, let's talk about Airbus, Boeing, and then the differences between those two with the Cessna Citation. So first of all, very quickly, if you haven't read the preliminary report for this accident, go do it because it's very, very interesting. And it clarifies a lot. Then you can make your assumptions. That's okay. I have my assumptions as well. And again, I thought about it while I was reading the report. I thought about it and said, hey, that's something I cannot do in the aircraft. Me or any other Cessna Citation pilot. So very quickly, at some point during the takeoff, after the liftoff, both fuel control switches that you have right here were registered to be in the cutoff position. So somehow or someone moved both switches to the cutoff position. The cutoff position just literally stops fuel going into the engine. So the engine starts rolling back down and eventually shut down. One of the pilots realized about it and reached out to both switches and put them back down to the run position. Unfortunately, it was too late, and the engine started to roll back again. Fuel starting to go into the engines again, but it was too late and the aircraft finally crashed. So how do these fuel control switches work? I know there are many other videos out there already from different channels better than me and professional pilots flying 787 or flying similar airplanes. But I just want to talk about the differences to my aircraft because I find it quite interesting to know the differences between manufacturers and how we operate differently. Here's a video that I found on the internet about the 787 fuel control switches. At the first seconds of the video, you'll see that the person is trying to move the fuel control switches to the run position just by pushing them, but he's not able to because we have a safety measure there that we need to lift the switch just a little bit out of a guard position, it's just a metal piece that holds the switch in position there. So we need to lift the switch and then move the switch to the other position. You see, he's not able to, and we need to lift the switch. Now, this is the position right now here that both switches would be in a takeoff. So both switches are in the run position, the fuel is running into the engines. Now, same situation to go to the cutoff. You cannot just move accidentally the switch to the cutoff. You need to lift the switch and move it back to cutoff. You see? We need to lift it and to cutoff. Now, this is a video from an Airbus cockpit. We have the very same both switches for engine 1, engine 2. Instead of run and cut off, they name it on and off. You know, the purpose is quite the same. So again, you cannot move the switch accidentally or just directly to the other position. You need to lift the switch and then move it.
As you can see, you cannot physically take this engine and turn it off or on without lifting, and it goes into the detent. See?
So like I said, it's just a metal piece, a guard, that holds the switch in position just again to avoid either accidentally by a person there to move it to the other position, or because of any turbulence or heavy turbulence to avoid that switch accidentally moves to the other position. So we have like a metal piece there that holds the switch in position there. So we need to lift it off that guard and move it to the other position.
There's no way this can come out on its own. Same thing with engine number 2.
This video I recorded yesterday is from a Cessna Citation XLS Plus cockpit. All the Cessna Citations are quite similar in the cockpit, especially for those thrust levers and the pedestal area there. So as you can see, we don't have any fuel control switches right there underneath the thrust levers, unlike the Airbus and the Boeing. So how do we shut down the engines? Either when we are in an emergency and we need to shut and secure the engine, or when we get to the gate at the destination and we need to shut the engines down. So just imagine we are in flight and we have the thrust levers at this position, either during the takeoff, in the takeoff position all the way forward, or in that position which is the cruise position. How do we shut down the engines? So unlike the Airbus systems and the Boeing fuel control switches there, we need to put the thrust lever, both of them or either of them, back to idle first back to idle, and then we have some kind of trigger that we need to lift and move back to cut off. Same with the other engine. So here, let's do it again. We have the thrust levers at some position in flight, out of the idle position. So in order to shut down the engines, again, we don't have that direct fuel control switch. So the first thing that we have to do is move the power back to idle. Here it is, coming back to idle. That is idle. I cannot push any further down than that. So I need to go to the trigger. I pull the trigger. Here it is, closer look. The engines are at the idle position right now. I need to pull the trigger and then I am able to move it back to cut off. Same with the other engine. And just in case you're wondering, same thing the other way. To move the throttle out of the cutoff position, I need to pull the trigger and then I am able to put it into the flight position, let's say. Out of cutoff, lift the trigger, out of cutoff, and then when it's idle, I can move it freely to the other area of the thrust lever. So as you can see, the main difference is that in the Cessna Citation, in order to shut down the engines and cut the fuel off into the engines, first we need to move the throttle back to idle. Unlike the Boeing 787, where they have some direct control switches there, fuel control switches, no matter where the thrust lever is, you can reach to those fuel control switches and move them into the cutoff position. So again, as I was reading the report back a couple days ago, I said to myself like, hey, this cannot happen in my aircraft, or we cannot do it, neither accidentally nor intentionally. So I thought I should share this information with you, and it would make an interesting video to understand the different systems between manufacturers. Not saying one is better than the other, but just saying the differences. Again, waiting for more from the official authorities, waiting now for the final report. There's more investigation ongoing and there's more to come. I hope this video was helpful and interesting for you guys as well. Thank you very much and see you in the next one.